Hello, good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome everyone to this edition of Altis webinar. Today we are going to discuss about Apache Airflow, and specifically we are going to look at MWAA, that is a managed workflow for Apache Airflow, which is a managed service offering of Airflow from AWS. So yeah, I think we can get started with the session. Let me just. Right. So today we are going to discuss about Apache Airflow, and specifically we are looking at the managed workflow for Apache Airflow, which is a managed service offering from Amazon. So let's look into the agenda for this session. So we'll start with a little bit of overview of Apache Airflow. So some of you would have already used Apache Airflow in the past or a similar service. So we'll get it into a bit of an overview of Airflow. We'll then look at some of the key concepts to set the context. Then we'll dive into MWAA, which is the managed workflow for Apache Airflow. We will then list down some of the prerequisites that we need to ensure before we set up our Airflow environment. We would then briefly go through the architecture of MWAA, and this will then be succeeded by a demo session where we will spin up a fresh MWAA environment. We would then look at some of the benefits of using MWAA, and then we'll get into the Q&A. I would like to inform you all that you can post your questions in the Q&A section or the chat section, and we have panelists here who can facilitate that for us. All right, so let's get into it. Right. So about Airflow, some of you might already be familiar with this tool, while some of you might have used a similar workflow management tool in the past. But essentially, Airflow is an open source workflow management tool, which was designed at Airbnb to manage their complex workflows. It was an open source project from the beginning, and was developed under the Apache Incubator program, which later became a top-level Apache software foundation project. So Airflow gives a platform to programmatically author, schedule, and monitor the progress through a web-based UI monitoring interface. Some of the key features of Airflow are the fact that it is dynamic, meaning the configuration is coded using a Python program. So you can write programs to dynamically generate schedules through configuration files. This gives you flexibility and customization opportunities. So you can write your configurations in JSONs or YAMLs and programmatically generate your schedules. It is also very extensible, meaning the functionality can be easily extended to suit your purpose. There are various operators already provided by the open source community, but you can always extend the operator functionality or create new operators to suit your needs. Yeah, and it is also it is considered quite elegant. The onus is, of course, on the developers to ensure the standard coding practices are followed, but nevertheless, Airflow pipelines are lean and explicit, and also it uses the Jinja templating, which can make the process of parameterization quite simple. Right, and scalability is one of the key features of Airflow. Essentially, it can infinitely be scaled by spinning more workers on demand. AWS MWAA has improved it further by using the celery executor with an auto-scaling mechanism under the hood, which sort of does the job of a load balancer and can spin up more workers as the demand increases. So yeah, so that is one of the key features. Right. Let's look at some of the core components. So web server is one of the key components of Airflow. It's basically a Flask-based servers. In this particular case, it runs on an AWS Fargate instance that serves the UI. Now the UI is quite essential for monitoring your schedules, of course. It also provides you it also provides you an interface to kind of view your logs and help you debug your workflow, and also could help you in spinning in running your running your schedules on demand. So UI is a multi-purpose interface that serves all these purposes. When you look at the scheduler, which is a daemon process, and it runs it is responsible for scheduling your task essentially. Metadata DB is set up in RDS, in an RDS database. So it's basically a Postgre-based Aurora DB instance on RDS for this particular case to store all your metadata related to admin and jobs. Because we are using Aurora in MWAA, it provides with a proxy and serverless capabilities. So when you spin up the Airflow environment in AWS, Aurora DB is used as a metadata DB by default. Executors are essentially how the task defines how the tasks are executed. Traditionally, a vanilla Airflow supports various types of executors, Celery and Kubernetes being the most popular ones, but MWAA only supports Celery executor. And I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind this limitation because it is the most seasoned, popular, and stern executor out there. Workers are essentially the threads that process the actual task. Celery executor manages these workers, and the auto scaling mechanism takes care of adding or removing the number of workers based on the load. All right, some key concepts for people who are familiar. It could be a refresher, and for people who are new, just to understand the context. Some of the key concepts of Airflow. So the most important concept is, of course, the DAG, which is a Python-based file, which graphically represents your data pipeline. A DAG is something where you provide a context for your schedule, giving it a name, an ID, and the time that it needs to be executed, all that. And also the dependency amongst DAGs, among the various DAGs. So that's what a DAG is. An operator essentially defines the functionality of the task. These are generally this is the piece of code which is created as an interface between various external sources and APIs. And you can always extend these operators to provide additional functionality. Tasks are basically the instance of the operators, and task instance represent a specific run of a task. So it can be defined as the tag along with the task and the point in time, so the execution of that particular task. All right, let's move on. So the MWAA, which is Amazon's managed workflow for Apache Airflow, is a managed service provided by AWS for the familiar Apache Airflow. So essentially, you get all the benefits of Airflow minus the overhead of managing releases, monitoring web servers, worker nodes, and scheduler logs. AWS ensures that your environment is up and running all the time. And AWS also manages the provisioning and ongoing maintenance of Airflow for you. So this essentially gives you more time to focus on building your data pipelines and improving or optimizing your workflow. Yeah, so that is a bit of an overview of MWAA. It is also very seamlessly integrated with other AWS services because it is a managed service, and also you can create your infrastructure using Terraform or CloudFormation. So essentially, infrastructure as a code. Right. So let's look at some of the prerequisites to set up your Airflow environment. So one of the key prerequisite is an S3 bucket. So essentially, and this is where all the configurations, all configuration files, the plugins, and essentially the DAG files are stored. So it's really important. And the environment looks at the scans the S3 bucket to find the DAGs and render them. We would also need an execution role that allows MWAA environment to access AWS resources in your environment. You can choose the default option, but you can also create an execution role when you are creating an environment. A CMK, which is the customer master key, is used for data encryption of your environment. You can choose the default option again to create the AWS owned CMK when you create an environment, or specify an existing customer key with the permissions to the AWS services used by the environment configuration. VPC security groups. So security groups allows MWAA to access other AWS resources in your VPC network. So you can, so of course there are default options available here as well when you create an environment, or you can provide a security group with the essential inbounds and outbound rules for the purpose. There are 5 high-level security groups that you would need. One is the full console access. So users who need permission policy if they need to configure an environment on the MWAA console. So this is the admin level access. Some users might need full API access permission policies. So if they need to access the MWAA APIs used to manage an environment, it does not grant, this role does not grant permissions to access the Airflow UI. You also have the read-only access permission policy that you would need for users that need to view the resources used by an environment on the MWAA console. These users cannot create a new environment or edit the existing environment or allow a user to view the UI. So pretty limited access in this one. You also may need a web server access permission policy, and if for the users that need access to the UI, Apache Airflow UI. Now this one does not allow users to view environment or environment on the MWAA console or use the APIs to perform any actions. You might also need a security group for the CLI access permission for users that need to run the CLI, Airflow CLI commands like triggering tags from command line. So these are a few of the security groups that you might need to set up as prerequisite. And then you have the actual VPC. Now the VPC that you need to set up needs to have 2 public subnets minimum and 2 private subnets, followed by the routing tables. So it can have public root and private root. NAT gateways is what you would use to access the internet, and you would need elastic IPs for your NAT gateways and an internet gateway, and one of the not knowing ingress security group as well. So this is a high-level architecture of MWAA. So as you can see, we have got a service API, a service VPC, and an Aurora DB and a Airflow web server, which is running on a Fargate instance. So when you create an environment, AWS will spin up an Aurora metadata DB and a Fargate container for the web server in each of your 2 private subnets, which are created in different availability zones, of course. The environment class that you choose for your Amazon MWAA environment determines the size of your Fargate containers, where the Celery executor and the web servers are going to run, as well as the metadata DB database, where the scheduler creates the task instances. The workers on the MWAA environment uses the Celery executor to queue the distributed task, to queue and distribute tasks to multiple Celery workers from an Airflow platform. The Celery executors run on, again, the Fargate containers. And if the Fargate container in one of the availability zone fails, then Amazon MWAA switches to the other container in a different availability zone to run the Celery executor. And the scheduler creates a new task instance in the Aurora DB metadata database. You can also integrate services like CloudWatch and ECS, which is the container registry, along with other services that can be integrated seamlessly with MWAA. Right. So now let's get into the demo, where we will spin up a new MWAA environment using the AWS console. So let me stop sharing for a while. Right. So let's look into setting up a new managed Apache Airflow instance. So we'll go into the, so from the console, you can look at the services and you can search for MWAA, and it will take you here. So I already have an environment running right now, which we will look into shortly. But let's create an environment from the scratch. So here are the steps. So we create an environment, and then we upload a DAG, and then we run the DAG in Airflow. So pretty simple. All you need to do is provide your name. So name of the environment, So let's say we provide a name, and then we have to give a bucket name. So like I said, the prerequisite for Airflow is to have a bucket created, and I already have a bucket in place for this particular purpose. So let's use this bucket, which is the Altis demo MWAA S3 bucket 1. So we need to have a Dax folder inside our bucket. This is where all the tags would be uploaded, all your Python files. Plugin is essentially where you put all your plugins, and that is also uploaded in the bucket. And the requirements.txt is essentially for all the dependencies that you need to manage for your Airflow application. Okay. Right. So now let's choose a VPC. I already have a VPC running, but to generate a VPC, you can use a CloudFormation template. So in this VPC, we essentially have the internet gateways, the public and the private subnets, and the elastic IPs that we need to attach the gateways, and the NAT gateways as well. So you can get this, you can get a baseline template from the AWS website as well, or you can create one for yourself. So I've already VPC which is running, and this takes the subnets that we have created, the private subnets. So one running in each of the availability zones. So one running in AP Southeast 2A and AP Southeast 2B for our case. For the web server, you have option to have the web server using private network. Now, when you're using private network, this needs some additional configuration. So you might need a Bastion host and an EC2 instance through which you would access your web server. Yeah. So for this particular demo, let's go with the public network. So for the security groups, you can always create new security groups, or you can use the existing security groups that you have created. And you can get this baseline from the AWS website again. The environment class is essentially for all your Fargate instances as well as your metadata DB. So let's go with the small one for this demo. Maximum worker count is the number of workers that would be spin up based on the load. So you can have you can put any number between 1 to 25, and the Celery executor will take care of spinning up or scaling your workers. So for this demo, let's keep 2. And again, encryption is where you can provide your encryption key, a customer provided encryption key, or you can use your own CMK. Logging configurations. This is where you can provide different levels of logs. So we can have info, we can have warning level, or we can have critical. It's usually recommended to keep it at info. And then we have the Airflow web server logs that you can switch on, and you can define different logging levels for each of these different logs. So you can have the web server logs, you can have the scheduler logs, and DAG processing logs. This will give you more detailed insight of your environment and how your environment is performing, and probably give you opportunities to optimize your pipeline. Yeah, I'm just going with the task log for this one, for the demo. You can, for the configuration options, you can add your configuration options here so if you want email setup, you can have the email notifications sent through these various configuration options, and you can also have task configurations like parallelism, like how many parallel processes that you would need to execute, concurrency, and whatnot. You can easily create your configurations here. I'll keep it as is for the demo. Tag is, of course, you can create tags for your environment. For the permissions, you can always create a new role. So this is a default option, and AWS creates a default execution role for you. But you can have a more detailed role. So I have already created an execution role that I'm going to use. So you can choose the execution role that from the drop down here. All right, so there you have it. Most of the things are set up, and all you need to now do is review your form and just hit create. And yeah, it will AWS will take care of creating the environment for you. It might take some time. So while this one is getting created, let's look at the one which has already been running. So let me open the UI for this. So as you see, this is a pretty standard Airflow UI, which is quite familiar for everyone. And so you can have you can look at your DAGs here. You can add your variables in the UI and everything, right? So yeah, this is quite familiar already. Let's upload a sample DAG. Right, so I've already created a Dax folder inside my S3 bucket. Let's upload a DAG. So I've just picked up a sample DAG from the Airflow website. Right. So as soon as I upload the DAG, let's give it a minute to refresh. Right, so there we can see our sample DAG. So essentially the environment looks at the S3 bucket, and you can put your DAGs here. You can also create your configuration files here you can create your configuration folders, as well as for your requirements.txt, you can add your requirements file as well in the S3 bucket, and the environment will scan through your files and will add the required dependencies. So there you have it. So this one here, you can look at the graphical view as well. So pretty standard and very easy to set up as well. Yeah, so that was the demo. Pretty easy to set up. Of course, you can always have more options and you can add more options that you choose to set up your environment. And let's look at some of the benefits of MWAA. So like you have already seen, the setup is quite simple. And you can set up your Airflow environment in any region that you choose to do so. Scaling is one of the key benefits of MWAA. The worker instance can be dynamically scaled through the auto scaling mechanism of the Celery executor. Security is again a key feature, and a greater level of security is provided by the integration with the IAM. So you can have various security groups set up, and only authorized IAM users can log into your UI, or you can only give them read-only accesses through the various security groups. So you don't have to implement any custom authorization logic. Upgrades and patches. Besides the auto scaling of worker nodes capacity, one of the most considerable advantages of MWAA is the fact that it's managed. It's a managed service, so you don't need to monitor the web server, worker nodes, and scheduler logs to ensure that all components within your environment are working. So AWS is responsible for the upkeeping of the environment and making sure that it is running all the time. So monitoring, so like we have seen, UI provides the standard monitoring features for your schedules and your DAGs, but you can always integrate CloudWatch to look into other various metrics and features, which will enable you to optimize your workflow and performance even better. Integration is quite seamless with various AWS services, because of the fact you can also integrate it using your CloudFormation templates easily. And instead of maintaining the manually rotating credentials, you can now also leverage IAM roles for more robust management of your permissions. So integration is one of the key benefits as well. Like we said, most of the components in the environment are running in Fargate, which is essentially a serverless container management service from AWS. So AWS also promises support for containerized workloads with Fargate, and it enables easy consolidated pricing for all your Airflow components through MWAA, S3, and CloudWatch resources. Of course, the public and private network, you can have greater security setup by using the access level of your Airflow web UI. So you can either go through the option of using it through the public network, or you can do it through a private network with some additional configurations of Bastion host on an EC2 instance. Yeah, so those are some of the key benefits of using MWAA. All right, we are already towards the end of our session, so we can take some questions if you have. So you can post your questions on the Q&A section, and we can always you can always post your questions on the on other forums as well, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Let's give it a minute. All right, if we do not have any questions for now, yeah, you can always ask us questions in the other forums. So there you have it. I think we have covered most of what we intended to cover through this session. This is quite a high-level basic introduction to this particular service, and you can reach out to us for more detailed discussion on how to customize the environment for various to add various capabilities for the client's purposes and needs. But yeah, thanks for attending this session, taking out the time this afternoon, and thank you all. We'll see you in the other sessions as well.